Hi, my name is Farida. I talk about living a life of ease, remote work, travel, and financial abundance for Black and Muslim women. Today, I have Shahidah Siraj with me. I found out about Shahidah from Facebook. She is a Facebook comedian, and anytime I am feeling down in the dumps, I go to her page and get a laugh and keep on moving. And I was just really intrigued with one of her posts about financial abuse in an Islamic context. So I invited her on, and she has graciously accepted to be interviewed. Welcome, Shahida.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So, the first question that I want to ask to just get rooted and grounded in the topic is, what is financial abuse and how does it show itself most commonly in the Muslim community?
Well, I want to start by saying that usually financial abuse is accompanied by other forms of abuse. I read somewhere that it's the hidden cousin of
Mm,
other abuse. So whether that abuse is physical, mental, emotional, it's usually not standalone, but it's kind of secret. And the reason I think it can easily be secret within the Muslim context is because we have this mandate that men are the protectors and maintainers of women. And so that puts a lot of authority into his hands, which which can mean within the wrong context, it starts to tilt to the side and go left, as they say. And so what that can look like a lot of times is uh, abusive men tend to be very controlling. So what it's going to look like is control of your finances, and not always in very obvious ways. I have some notes here, so I'm looking at
absolutely.
my notes.
So do I.
Um, so it can look like controlling your money, so whether that's, well, let me back up and say, because I mentioned this in the video that I did about financial abuse, is one of the very common ways I see it amongst Muslims is getting her to become a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife, whether she has
Mhm.
children or not. And that's not to say everyone who's a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife is being financially abused. Really, it's about the intention of the brother in this situation. Women can also be financially abusive, but I always tell brothers, I'm a woman who's dealt with men, so I'm going to speak from that perspective. Brothers are free to take up the mantle when you're talking about women. However,
Absolutely.
the brother will typically get her to be a stay at home wife or stay at home mom. And that puts you, just by virtue of the situation, within his control. And then it starts to become more sinister in terms of restriction, her having to, so I can give a personal example of being in a financially abusive marriage where I found myself having to, we were at an event and I had to go to him to ask for $5.
Mm,
And so
mhm.
it can look like restriction just in terms of him controlling the money. I know I've met sisters that these weren't American sisters, but that never knew how to do anything, how to put gas in the car. They didn't know anything about life insurance. They didn't know anything about the mortgage, the car payment, anything. That he controlled all of that. And sometimes, as a woman, I know as a working woman, it can feel like nice to let go and let him have all of that. But with an abusive man, he's going to use that in a more sinister way. It can look like, for those who work, it can look like sabotaging your work. So I mentioned an example of putting you in a position where you have to keep calling into work to take a day off because you were either, I've seen it where a sister was up arguing all night with him and you can't go to work and be your best self, or when you do go to work you are you're not giving your best and you're not putting your
Mhm.
best effort forward, and so you end up under a pip or some kind of counseling at work because of your performance,
Oh
and
my
that is
God, I can
intentional
relate.
on his part. um it can be forcing financial matters. So forcing you to take loans, forcing you to hand over money, forcing you to spend money in a particular way that he would like. you to do it. Um, Monitoring your money. And that's where you really start to slide downwards Islamically, because depending on your perspective and the way that you understand finance within Islam, my understanding always was that your money was not of his concern. But
Exactly.
somehow it has morphed into this good Muslim model Muslim wife where he gets to have that authority. And really, for those of us who don't come from cultures where men traditionally do that, we're handing that over to you. That's an amana, that's a trust that we're giving, which is quite often being violated. I won't say all the time. There are
Right.
some brothers that are very good about, even if their wife is a stay at home mom, stay at home wife, about the allocation of the money so that she can have her independence. Um, I wanted to say too that this isn't just in marriage, it's also in divorce. So the financial abuse can occur. I was in a situation where he directly told me he knows that when you decide to divorce, that you're required to maintain the woman in the way that you had been as you go through this divorce process. He decided, I'm not doing that.
I've heard
So
that so many times.
and
Yeah.
I've heard also an experience myself where it's difficult to come out of the marriage because now you have this man who was once financially responsible for you saying, I'm not doing that. So good luck on how you're going to do it. And I actually, and I don't mind to share personally, that I was in a marriage where when we were divorcing, he told me that, oh, I guess if you don't stay with me, you're going to be homeless on the street, because he had started to restrict money. Now I was working, but
Mhm.
we were in what I thought was partnership financially in terms of bills and everything. And he knew that I didn't have the money to just strike out so quickly on my own. I was going to
Right.
need that 3 months to get myself together. And so he chose to restrict me at that time. Um, I wanted to also mention the mahar, or the dowry. That's another financial abuse that can happen,
Mhm.
because I have heard and spoke to sisters who we all know sisters, self included, who
Self
did not
included.
get what they asked for, right?
I
But
got about
more, but
half of my mahar, about
yes,
half, and I was
that's
lucky
why
to get half.
that whole delaying thing, I don't know about that,
No
sisters. I
more
wouldn't encourage
delay.
it. Don't delay anything. You negotiate that up front, get it up front. But using the mahar, like the non-payment of it, withholding it while married, to kind of like, I know a sister who told me, because sisters tell me a lot because I'm very vocal. So they can
Yes.
speak this, say that, this is what happened. A sister told me also that he told her she didn't deserve it. So he wasn't giving it to her
I've heard
within the
that too.
marriage.
Yes, you didn't
So,
deserve it, you're nashiv, you're disobedient, you forfeit your right to the mahar, which is
and that's
totally
like,
un-Islamic.
which Islam are we practicing here? Because
Exactly.
I don't recall that. And so
Mhm.
that's it within a marriage. But I did want to say also that I have felt the beginnings of that in a courtship.
Yes, I heard some of that in your video, that it can
Yes,
start early even before the marriage
the
contract
marriage.
actually starts, so that was really interesting.
I
S
mean, just as you're getting to know someone and you're getting more familiar and you're getting more comfortable, I was in, well, we weren't even officially in courtship. We were kind of in that talking stage before courtship.
Mhm, mhm,
And I think he was very insecure because I discovered that he was pretty financially unstable. And so
insecure,
I think he was low key jealous of my accomplishments, despite the fact that I'm a single mom of 3 children. And
right,
so he would start to put down the work that I put in.
yes,
And more and more, he would start to put it down. And then he would start to tell me how, when he's controlling things, how different it would be. And
mm,
fortunately for me, I'm wiser, I'm older now. I was like, oh no,
red
yikes.
flag, I spotted
This is
immediately.
a glaring red flag here,
Yes,
that it's a problem for you. And I think for me personally, having children made me much more conscientious of this, because I cannot have them witnessing something like this. So
absolutely.
He is now Black History. So,
Exactly. We'll talk about him every February and keep it moving. But you really struck a nerve with me with the sabotage aspect because I
Mhm,
experienced that with sleep deprivation with one of my ex-husbands, keeping me up at night purposely to talk or argue or discuss a matter so
mhm,
that the next day when I had to go into work, I was horrible, I was cranky, I was crying to the point where my
mhm,
coworkers, they know me for over a decade. They're like, "Farida, you're not like this. This is not you. What is going
mhm,
on?" And, it was a deliberate attempt that
mhm,
my performance would be so bad that I would be laid off. And it didn't even get that far, girl, because I went ahead and resigned because I was so mentally, emotionally,
mhm,
physically just unprepared for the workforce after, that barrage of that
mhm.
sleep deprivation is torture. So
Not to mention just the mental and emotional aspect of it, because I mean,
mhm.
even in a healthier relationship, nobody, if you really love this person and you're really invested in a relationship, likes to argue and have disagreements. So that already throws your day off in a
Mhm.
healthier situation. But in a more abusive situation, whatever that abuse looks like, um, even more so. I mean,
Absolutely.
I had in terms of sabotage, in one of my marriages, more than one, yes, more than one.
Girl, same.
Um, when I was getting a divorce, I didn't. So the thing that I wanted to say about financial abuse too is, especially for those of us who have been working women, been career women, we may not notice it as much. We
Mhm.
really may not, because we're so accustomed to, moving and doing the things that we do. And so I didn't want to believe that he was sabotaging me. So what was happening was, before we decided to divorce, we talked about, I had been a stay-at-home mom. We
Right.
talked about me getting back to work. And previously, every time we would have that conversation, he would be supportive, but it would just somehow never happen. Just we
Mm,
never got to it. And I didn't
mhm.
notice that. I didn't notice that. I just felt like, oh, he just wants me to be with the children. I really didn't notice it. So I really didn't think about it. But fast forward, when we're going through the divorce and I had landed a job, um, someone else who had been counseling us told me outright. He didn't want to tell me, but he told me, listen, sister, I have to tell you, he does not want you to go to get that job. And I was
Wow.
like, really? Like,
Wow.
then it all started to click for me. I started to see the little fragments and pieces that um, I hadn't noticed before. And then it just became overt. So he was doing everything that he could to make it difficult for me to leave by causing the financial aspect, because there was nothing else he could do to prevent it but use finances. And so what it looked like is he took the family vehicle from me. So I had
Mhm.
no car. He was trying to sabotage my job. He deliberately just, we had an agreement as far as childcare, so we didn't have to pay for childcare. He didn't honor that agreement. So I
Mhm.
ended up, thankfully, by the grace and mercy of Allah, finding childcare at the last hour and salvaging my job. But I had to be very upfront with my supervisor at the time about what was happening. And you never want that as a Muslim woman, because it looks like the
Mhm.
stereotype. It
It
looks like
does.
every bad thing they ever say about
Mhm.
Muslim men and Muslim relationships and abusive dynamics. But that was my reality.
That was
So,
the
I
reality,
mean, it was so petty that when I did finally get a vehicle, which he was not happy about, he wouldn't even give me my children's car seats. So I had to, and he knew all of this was financial strain for me, because I'm
Right.
someone who had been out of the workforce for years. But
Mhm.
thankfully, and I encourage this for your young sisters, get a education, get a trade, get something that makes you marketable, because it was easier for me to get back in the workforce because I have a degree, because I have work experience. And so
Absolutely. That is
Oh,
highlight that, underline it a little bit louder
yes.
for the people in the back because
Don't let these brothers tell you, oh,
yes.
that's the Kufar's education or whatever they're
Mhm.
telling you about the white man's education, whatever.
Yes.
Education, if that's what you want, because I respect the fact that people have trades or they have
Mhm.
certain skills that you don't require a degree. But whatever it is, have
Get
something
it.
that's marketable. Even having a
Exactly.
work history
Mhm.
um is something because it's very difficult to get back out there when you have none of that.
It
Or
is.
worse yet, you don't even know how to do that.
I talk to young 20-year-old Black and Muslim women all the time about, yes, I know you have 3 babies and they're all under 5, but get you a little remote job, get you a little certification, become a project manager, get you a Scrum certificate, get you a little, get a teaching degree, get something because divorce is not the only bad thing that can happen, you know. You can your husband can become ill, can
Hmm.
pass away,
Yes,
and, it's not always divorce and he's leaving you alone to raise those kids on your own. So,
yes,
excellent
absolutely.
advice. Mhm.
And I think too, pay attention to the fact that perhaps earlier rather than later, but nonetheless, pay attention to resistance on his part for you to want to do those things. Because what would be the problem from a decent, conscientious brother for you to better yourself? I'm not talking about things that take you away endless hours and all of that. I'm saying, which is why it's better to have it on the front end.
Mhm.
Really. But I
Exactly.
recognize that everybody doesn't go that route and not everybody will. But when you are in a position where you're already in the marriage and you're trying to do some things, what would be the objection
Right.
beyond something ridiculous? I mean, because some sisters got all of a sudden you want to be an attorney and it's like, okay, I mean, if that's your goal, that's
Right.
great. But there would be a conversation about that. If all, I mean, even for me as a woman, if all of a sudden
Mhm.
he hopped up and wanted to take a job that was very demanding on his time,
Absolutely.
that would be a problem. But outside of things like that, look at the resistance because that's one of the things that I didn't pay attention to. I mean, I was a person that had a career. I was childless with at the top of my career when I got married, and I chose for my reasons too, and I'm glad I did to stay home with my children for a
Yes.
time, and I was homeschooling for a time, but
Same. Yes,
but
homeschooling mama here too. Mhm.
it was yeah, that's a whole other conversation, but um pay attention to the resistance to you wanting to do something outside of that better than that because I didn't see it because I was on board too. I felt like it's not like I'm some dumb young girl, right? That's what I'm saying to myself. I agree with this. We are a team. We're working together, but I didn't see slowly, gradually, more and more. I was relinquishing my personal power.
Same, same. Every day it was one other concession that I made, one other
Hmm.
compromise, one other chipping away at me. And I remember my late husband saying, "But if you go to work, you're gonna leave me." And I'd just be like, what do those 2 things have to do with each other? So I know for a lot of people, a lot of men, they think that if you have financial independence, if you've got a job, then the next step is she's got the tools to leave me easily now. And
Hmm.
that is a very, very great warning sign that you gave us because I feel that a man that's confident and comfortable in himself and views you as a partnership and not, something to further his career, his ambitions, his goals, but it's a two-way street. You're never going to get a response like that. It's going to be like, "You want to go back to school and become a nurse? Great, let's do it. What do we
Hmm.
have to do?" And
Right.
yes, if you're going to be away, 80 hours a week, then no, we have to have a conversation because this is a relationship, this is a family, we have to have balance. But if it's simply, I would like to start a business. I would like to go back to school and become a respiratory therapist. It should just be nothing but encouragement and how can we make this happen? Because that's how I am. I'm such a lover girl. Like your dreams are my dreams. Let's
Hmm.
do it. And I expect the same in return.
And that's
Absolutely.
the thing, that reciprocity needs to be there.
Mm,
It shouldn't be just one sided. And sometimes I think in Muslim rhetoric, and especially now that we have Muslim men becoming a part of this red pill movement, there is
mhm.
this way in which now their masculinity, their personhood is directly connected to your submission, as they call it, but I would say subordination.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's an ego boost. It's a way to feel like they're asserting their manhood. And, in the courting stage, I suggest asking those type of questions and doing it in a conversational style, not a judgmental style, because if they know they're supposed to hide it, they will. But just ask them questions about, how do you feel about gender roles and how do you feel about your wife working? You see me now as I am, with lipstick on, with makeup
Hmm.
on, working, traveling. Is that a problem for you? Because a lot of them will mask because they know that this rhetoric is not going to get them married. And then they will show their true selves afterwards.
And I would offer too that ask the questions, but stay alert and pay attention. I mean, there's a way as a woman, and I have an advantage just because of my personality, that you have to not just be all about emotion and how
Mm,
you're feeling. You need to pay attention to the red flags, the signs, because these are things that are going to come up later. They're going to be a problem later. And you can't just, he just, because I remember in one of my marriages, we had a huge blow up before we even had the wedding. And it
mm.
was something that I really should have paid attention to, because he stopped speaking to me. And this is like leading up to the wedding.
The
And it was over.
silent treatment, wow.
Yes, it was beyond silent treatment. I'm going to say he was stonewalling. He just was
Mm,
not dealing with me, and that was something I should have paid attention to. But even still, you just gotta because I'm learning now that more and more people know what to say. So you
yes,
gotta watch what organically. Don't test people. Me personally, I hate that. Don't test me. Let it naturally flow. But look at
mm,
what happens when you have a disagreement, when
yes,
there is a conflict. How does he respond? Listen to what he's saying. Pay attention to what he's doing. Listen to him when he's talking about his ideas, and not necessarily direct questions, just as you said, in a conversation, naturally. Pay
mm,
attention to these things, because the brother that I mentioned, who obviously was very threatened by the things that I've accomplished post divorce, um, when I maybe younger me would have thought like, oh, he's just trying to be protective of me. He's just being caring. But older me was like, no, this
mm,
brother's insecure. He obviously has a problem with, and I took it real personal, just in terms of I had to rebuild from scratch
ah,
after my
mm,
divorce with children in tow. And I have
goodness,
worked very hard. I was in therapy, and my therapist had encouraged me to make a chart of my progress, because I was in the thick of it. I wasn't seeing it. So
right,
her having put that in front of my face gave me it was homework actually that I had to do. Um Realizing that, it gave me a certain level of confidence. And so no brother can come along now and try to push me back when I realize this is where I am, because of a decision that I made to marry this person, that I had to
mhm,
start all over again from scratch. I had to do something which, and this is no offense to anybody, I just didn't want this for myself. I was terrified of being a single mom, but
mm,
that's where I was. And he knew that too. He knew that. That's why he did things to make and still does things really to make things difficult for me financially, has been the biggest, because there's no other control that he has any
exactly,
other
that's the
any other
only
place
thing
other
left.
than withholding finances. But I forgot where I was going with that, but pay attention is the point overall. Pay attention to these things. But for me, because I've had that experience of seeing having to rebuild, and that should teach you a lesson. If you've had to rebuild from scratch, you don't want to do that again. And as you get older,
Exactly.
you don't want to keep doing that again and again and
I
again.
always
So,
tell my daughters that when you leave a relationship, whether it's divorce or death, you want to be at the same financial level or better than when you entered it. Because we've seen the GoFundMe's, Shahida.
yes.
We've seen the financial devastation. We've seen the financial abuse paired with the physical abuse, where
Hmm.
sisters are in domestic violence shelters and
Hmm.
hiding for their lives. So,
Hmm.
having a place to go is so important. People really don't think about that. And I think about the friends that I have that left relationships because their spouses put so many debts in their name and so many bills in their name, came out with 10, 12 thousands of debt for a water bill, for a light bill, ridiculous things that I didn't even know could get that high. But
Yes. That happened to me, but fortunately for me, I had the presence of mind with some of the utilities.
good.
And because we were legally married when we had the divorce, to shift that on over.
That's another issue, the legal marriage versus let's just go to the masjid and do
Oh,
the nikah
yes.
and,
Listen, listen,
ugh,
listen, Linda.
listen.
Listen, Linda. You ain't talking me no more into having these. Well, a lot of masjids now are not doing
Yes, they're
that
not
anymore.
even accepting it anymore. There are a few in, certain areas that are still
Hmm.
doing it, but for the most part, we wanna see that marriage license, and we're not going any further, and I love that.
And I mean, and it's a double-edged sword, right?
Mm.
Because one of the things that is very frustrating for a lot of us is that Islamically you will be divorced, but legally that process is still drawing on,
Oh,
depending
yeah,
on what's happening in your particular situation. But
especially if
my
there are
my
kids
advice to
involved, yeah.
sisters, though, unfortunately, nobody's really enforcing the Islamic rule here. So
Mhm.
we have to rely on the legal. And if it the legal gives some level of accountability. I'm not going to say it's the be all to end all, but
Yeah.
I just wouldn't encourage it for sisters because I have seen so much. I know we all have seen so many bad examples of if even if legally they had been married,
Mhm.
certain sanctions would be in place. I know for my situation in Missouri, we could not leave the courthouse until a parenting agreement and child support was drawn up.
Wow, wow.
They would not let. We sat stalemate, and, and the judge's attorney, because we were both pro se as they call it, we were representing ourselves, told
Mhm.
us like you got to have an agreement before you leave this court. So there are ways in which, I mean, like I said, it's not the be all to end all because people don't always do legally what they're supposed to do anyway.
True, true.
But at least you
There's
have
still
some kind of
loopholes.
sanction. Hey, I know
Mhm.
sisters who didn't even know the brother's real name for real. So if you had
Yes.
a legal marriage, you knew
It
him by the Muslim name he had at the masjid.
he was Abu Lu'lu' for, like, the whole marriage, like, but his name was, like, Bob Jenkerson. We didn't know.
Or worse yet, I've seen this. He's still legally married to somebody else while
Exactly.
you're getting Islamically married. But when
Mhm,
you talk about getting legally married, and if he was hiding that, unless he's willing to take it that far, he's going
mm.
to have to divulge that he's still legally married. I've seen that. I've seen it more than
Exactly,
once. I've seen it. Some
I've
sisters
seen
who
that
went
at least
ahead
3
anyway,
times. Yes. Mhm.
which is a whole other.
And that's what we're talking when we say accountability. You know how these people love the word accountability. You got to take accountability. Accountability is realizing that you overlooked the red flags and now you are
I
going
did.
to take the steps. I did. Take the steps, get yourself financially together and make the best of your life and your children's life, That's accountability, you
And
know?
I have what I find interesting in all of this is because when you look at these online conversations, even within the Muslim context, about women, and they will have you online believing that women are just so rebellious, so disrespectful. And I'm not saying sisters don't have their problems, because I gave an example that I knew of I've seen women be financially abusive.
Yes,
I've
yes.
seen it.
You
I've definitely seen
what
it.
was she doing? Handing out $10 a week to the brother or something?
So they had an arrangement where, what, mashallah for the brother, his check goes to her. She
Mm,
uses it to pay all
mm,
the bills, and she would give him an allotment of his money
mhm.
for himself, which
Right,
worked well in a great, healthy situation. If that's what I'm not saying that has to be for everybody. People have the
right,
right to
right.
negotiate their own terms within their own marriage. But what started to happen is he would be trying to go buy something for lunch and his card would be declined. And all of this really, come to find out,
Oh.
was her trying to restrict him because of her being terrified that he might get an additional wife.
Oh, with $50 a week, that's gonna be hard, but okay.
But there are things, people have their insecurities, people, and a
Yes.
lot of this is about control. So on the female side, what I've seen on the woman side is controlling behavior. It just manifests in a different way.
In a different way. Exactly.
um
Exactly.
I'm going to offer that it's usually not as deadly for men as it is for women, just because of the
Absolutely.
position and the authority that the man has in the situation. I mean, at some point, you can just stop, as a man in that situation I just gave, you can stop doing that, which he did. Stop
Mhm.
giving her the money
Yeah.
and having to
Just
take it over
keep the
himself.
paycheck. Right. Mhm.
Right, but he wasn't in a position, although there's brothers like that, but that's something different. He wasn't in a
Mhm.
position where he was financially dependent on her, and
Mm.
then was
Mhm.
sanctioned within the religion to do so. So that it's different. But I was going to say that despite all the claims of rebellious women, I know so many sisters that have gone into these marriages open, giving, trying to be obedient, trying to be loving. I said obedient, submissive, whatever you want to call it, trying to be
Cooperative. Yeah.
cooperative,
Mhm.
trying to be all of that with brothers, and they completely botch it.
Mhm. Yes.
And so I find always kind of fascinated when I look at these conversations floating around online, because I acknowledge there are sisters that are out of pocket, but
Of
I
course.
was like, what is happening that seemingly decent brothers and decent sisters aren't finding each other? They're finding the polar opposite of one
Mm.
another. And some of this is overblown, right? I think that brothers are overblowing some of this. They are, and sometimes they are projecting onto us. They're doing that. But I also think that they have a certain type of woman they've dealt with, and they're placing that blame on all of us because, um, although not flawless, I've known plenty of sisters, decent sisters, that if they had the right brother, they would still be married and the situation would be working. But
Exactly. And, as African American Muslims, there's an added layer of, you know, um, the men have never really been the full providers in the dynamic anyway.
right.
My great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, me, we've
Mhm.
all worked all the way back to,
Been
when we
working
were
since we've been in this country. Stop
since we
playing.
were in this country. So then trying to for then accepting Islam in the 70s, 80s, 90s and saying, "Okay, now I'm the provider, but I need your paycheck." It's just a very strange dynamic that
It
you want
is.
the role of Kawam and provider, but the reality is we're both breadwinners in this dynamic. So there has to be more of a partnership. I mean, it just logically, taking emotion aside, if we're both breadwinners, we've got to both be taking care of these children. We've got to both be making decisions. We've got to be collaborating. And it cannot be a submissive, overlord type situation. It just doesn't work in the contents of being a Black people in this country.
And I think the brothers that I've met who are more evolved have come to understand that.
I
They've
do
come
too.
to understand, because what I think, and I challenged a brother on this, and he got very upset with me, and some other brothers got upset with me. I told them that they have very Eurocentric ideas about marriage and
That
relationship.
part, that part,
What,
that
and I
part.
asked them,
Yes.
what historically has working, femininity, all of these things look like for us? I mean, even if you want to take it back to pre-colonial Africa, what did that look like for us? And what you will find, it was different for us. Even in
Mhm.
pre-colonial Africa, that's my specialty now. I was African American Studies major. Um, Looking at historically what Black women have done, yeah, we had a time where, because brothers like to point out times where Black women were stay at home moms. We've always had some of that in our community, and that's fine. But as overall, that has never been our situation
It's never
because
been our
of
story. Yes.
our. Look at, I mean, it blows my mind that this is skipped over in these relationship conversations. Like, brother, when our people were brought here from Africa, we were both on the plantation working from sun up to
Mhm.
sundown.
Mhm.
What are
Exactly.
you talking about? And even after slavery, who are the domestics in the homes that were helping to, like, what are we talking about here, brothers? So from historically, yeah, there were examples. Your grandmother might not have worked. Okay, that's cool. I get it. But collectively, this has
Right.
been our situation. And what has our overall situation been in this country? So stop trying to force it into this dynamic that isn't
Dynamic.
ours.
That's not ours. And even
It's
if
not
grandma
ours.
wasn't working, guess what? She might have been taking in clothing as a
Clothes, mhm.
washerwoman. She might have been
What we now call
babysitting
passive income.
passive incomes and
Mhm,
work from home.
mhm.
She
Yeah,
might have been baking pies and baking cakes and Sunday dinners. I mean, they were income earners for the most part. Yes, there's exceptions to every rule, but to me, that whole "you want me to be a submissive provider?" Nah, player. It's gotta be one or the other. I can't be a submissive provider.
I think I just had a brother tell me today, he's upset with me that I was
Uh-oh.
looking for the perfect man. And I said, no, I'm not. I recognize the projection in the conversation, and I recognize that he felt like he was outside of what it is that I was looking for, and that hurt his feelings. That
Mhm.
shows me again that you're not very evolved because
Right.
that's your feeling. You need to process that and own that. Don't push that back on me saying that I'm talking about perfection. But I
Mm.
would like somebody that is open to understanding that. I was just before I came on with you, I was on Instagram watching a conversation. There's a rapper, he's not Muslim, but he takes some ideas from Muslim, AJ McQueen. And he
Mm.
was talking about him as a man and the lessons that he's had to learn in dealing with women and what it is that women really, and we're talking about, when he says women, we're not talking about no Instagram baddies, no
Yeah,
ratchet club hopping. That's not
yeah.
what we're talking about, because brothers love to go right to that. You don't skip over all us.
Right.
Even Muslim men, you done
Of
skipped over the Muslim women to that.
w
That's not us.
we're the majority, just regular women.
Just regular average women. He
Mhm.
was saying that women want to see but I'm paraphrasing, want to see that you've worked on yourself as a man, that you are doing the work, internal work within yourself, that's very attractive. And I'm starting to see, not as many as I would like, more and more men starting to really get in there and do some work on themselves. And a lot of
Mhm.
these, red pill thumping guys call them simps, but we're not talking about men who are just placating women. We're talking about men who have really done internal work. And
Yes.
so I am applauding that. And I want to see more of them,
Right.
because as
Right.
that happens, I think that the light comes on for a lot of men. Because I do
Yeah.
think, brothers will get me for this, but I do think a lot of women are doing work on ourselves.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. That
We and
the
and I'm not
majority
talking
of
about
us.
getting degrees. I'm talking about
Mhm.
this whole movement right now of just like wellness, of healing, of mental health.
Mhm.
Black women are more and more embracing that. And
Absolutely.
it seems like our men a lot of them are being left behind. And so that's why they're getting so aggressive with us about what it is they want us to do, because they may not consciously know it, but they see themselves being left behind. And
Mm.
you can't threaten us with a good time anymore about you just going to be alone with some cats. Okay.
Like, I
All
love
right.
my cats.
All right. All right. You can't threaten me anymore about like, oh, well, you're a single mom, so you just got to take what you can get. No, I
Mhm.
can take being at peace in my house with my children.
Absolutely.
I can
Choose
take that.
better, I choose me. Yes,
And so they're recognizing like all those old tactics, fear tactics are not working anymore. So my advice always is to brothers is work on yourself.
Mhm.
Don't look
Absolutely.
for me to be the healing for you. So you got to subjugate me in order to feel better about yourself. I'm not interested in that. So that's another thing for young women to pay attention to is that in order to feel powerful, to feel manly, to feel Muslim, a man feels like you have to be subjugated. That's a problem.
Absolutely. And I agree. I'm seeing a lot of the Gen Z, young men and young women, they are killing it. I'm talking about the
Yes.
brothers. These young men, they have such emotional intelligence. They are understanding some of the things that their fathers, the mistakes of their fathers,
Mhm.
the whole polygyny craze that their fathers did, and they've got like 35 siblings and everybody's in chaos. They are steering clear away from those mistakes. And this new crop of young Muslim American men, they really get it. A lot of the times they're really getting it. So it gives me hope. It gives me a
That's
lot of hope.
great. That's great. I've actually had well, he's not a Gen Z, he's a millennial, I believe.
Mhm.
But younger than me. A brother who he's like my play brother. He actually used to date my sister, but I kept him. I told her I'm keeping him. But he's like my little brother. He's talking about how he is encountering these older men like in my age group because I'm 51.
What?
50
Girl, look
yes.
good.
Alhamdulillah,
Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah. See what peace does for you? Sisters,
Peace,
that's my PSA for
your
peace.
skin be glowing when you're at peace. It's
Yes,
so
when you're
nice.
taking care of yourself, when nobody's son is stressing you out. But
Mhm.
he was telling me that he's encountering these men my age and older who are just bitter and giving him this horrible advice. And he's had some aha moments because he's married about how he should be with his wife, and they have internally worked out what their relationship is going to look like for
Mhm.
them, but some
Yes.
older men are coming to him trying to tell him, nah, brother, it should be this and it should be that. And he's like,
Trying to ruin his
and
marriage,
so
child.
yeah, when I talk to him, he's like, is this what you're having to deal with? And I said, yes,
Yes.
unfortunately, yes, it is.
Yes.
I start to see why, although I personally am not into that, why some sisters have gone younger.
Yes, I have a lot of friends that are going 10, 15 years younger, and then there are some of my friends that are deciding to go to, um, n non-Muslims that are interested in Islam and letting them take their Shahada and then marriage, and so, people are looking for
Hey,
solutions.
they are. I mean, it's just for me, I'm a person. I should probably be in risk management because I'm always looking at what is the risk here. And my whole issue, and I've talked about this countless times on my page, is that my concern with having somebody take Shahada is that I've seen this with brothers in my time of being Muslim, is that you want this hopefully to be about their connection to Allah and not to you.
Yes, and
Because
not
we
to
have seen
you.
over and over again
Mhm.
how many times, because I've done it, I've been the counselor. I stopped doing it. I told brothers, I am not doing it anymore. Talking to
Wow.
these women who clearly want you, they don't want Islam. And as soon as the
Exactly.
relationship breaks up, they're out there running for the hills. Um,
Absolutely.
so my concern
Absolutely.
always is number one is, are you doing this because this is what you want? And then number two, we all know too, where are you going to land at the end of this journey? We may
Mhm.
not agree on how to live and practice Islam at the end
Yeah.
of this journey. I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact that about 2 years ago, joined the nation. I'm kind of like an in between.
Mm,
And so I actually go to a masjid that's people here consider in between.
okay.
But where are you going to land?
Mm,
orientation wise at the end of it. And that's my concern. And I don't feel I have a right to interfere with someone's journey. It,
agreed. Your
wherever
journey is
they
your
decide to
journey.
be. But we
Absolutely.
all know people who try to guide that journey for their own perspective, for their own advantage. And I don't want to do that. So that's my concern with having someone accept Islam. Although
Yeah,
I have joined the nation, I would marry a Sunni brother as long as he's good with, because I'm kind of an in between. I'm not staunch nation. I'm
exactly.
not staunch Sunni because of having been Sunni for so long. That's one, but I would do that. I would even
Mhm.
be willing, depending on his effort. One overlooked category for sisters are brothers that are not really practicing, that may
Mm,
desire to. He's got to
yeah.
want it. I got to see it from you, not because of me. But I
We
would lean that more than
you talked about those ultra religious brothers and had us cracking up the other day.
I
Oh
cannot. And I've
god.
encountered those brothers are in the nation too. I'm like, oh my Lord, why do they like to find me and argue with me?
It's not
Brother.
even in it's not even just our religion, it's across the board. You know, you got
Yes.
those strict personalities. Mm,
I can't do it. I've done it already. I did it and it suffocated me. And
yeah, can't crack a smile, can't joke. You crack a little joke and they're like, "Astaghfirullah." It's like,
yes.
"Oh."
And for the sisters are like, well, I'm just gonna marry a brother from another culture. I mean, that works for some people, but I did that. And part of what we're talking about right now with the strictness
Mhm.
was culturally based for him, and we had a problem with that.
Yes. Yes.
I can't,
I've
I
been
can't,
there too. Been there, done
I
that. I would say uh, I would say culture is a more determining factor for me than race is
yes.
because, Americans, whether you're Arab American, Nigerian American, African
Hmm.
American, Caucasian American, we all have that American culture. We all know there are some norms that we've all grown up with, but going to another country, ooh, that is a
Well,
different scenario.
I met mine here, but I met what people would call were fobs. I met
Mhm.
those who were
Yes,
recent
yeah,
arrivals, and so it was
that's the
like
same.
it
It's
was
the
like
same
going
thing.
to it was like the same thing in terms of the interaction. But I mean, it all to me at the end of the day, I believe this, and this is why I don't listen to the brothers like you just want perfection. You're gonna be alone. Allah has what Allah has for me.
That's
I firmly believe that. That's why I'm
mhm,
not envious of other people when they find love because Allah has for me. I truly believe that. So I'm not worried
absolutely.
about it. I will put forth the effort. I realize now you can't just stay in your house
Yes,
and expect a lot of just
can't
drop
just sit
down.
down in the house and a husband falls on top the roof, child, but
However, I'm not going to be desperate because or envious or bitter or any of those things. I know brothers are they feel that I'm too hard on them, but I'm hard on y'all because I gotta be.
I love when you crack the whip. I just giggle, and you
I
crack
have
the whip
to. I
both
have to.
ways too.
Look, the kind of man that really is going to be with me can take that. That's
Yes.
not just like for me. I don't have a problem. Not a what do you bring to the table type of brothers. I hate that.
Yeah.
But a brother who has some standards and is evaluating me, I'm not offended by that. And why
Mhm.
are you offended by it? If you don't measure up, just go ahead and say that.
Exactly. We're both here evaluating. So it doesn't have to be a job interview, but yes, we're taking notes.
I mean, I'm tough because I have to be. And one of the things before I even made the transition, but it followed me into the nation was I had mentioned in my video about financial abuse. So I up until recently worked for the police.
Mhm.
And when you talk about non-Muslim men, I was meeting a lot of obviously police officer non-Muslim men who were like, "You're such a great lady. Why aren't you married?" But
Mhm.
what I was finding on the flip side as a Sunni, even being in the nation, brothers wanted me to leave that job. And I
Mm.
started to look more and more at it, and it wasn't about safety. It wasn't about safety
What was it
because
about?
I either it was two things that I finally realized. Either one, the anti-police view they had,
Okay,
understandable,
okay,
got
fair
it.
enough, yeah.
Then don't come to a sister that works for the police.
Thank
Don't come to
you.
me talking about you need to quit your job which ultimately I did, but not for a man. I did
Oh.
because of my own personal reasons.
That
But
is so my vibe, like, my late husband was so anti-makeup, lipstick, my eyebrows being done. Then don't marry a woman who had all those things going on before you married her, you
But you know
know?
what it is? You know what it is? I realized brothers are seeing. It's a little trick to see what they can get you to do. And that's supposed to
Yes,
be a measure of how submissive you are. And
yes,
I'm like, no, no, no. Y'all got it all wrong. Because as much as the allegation was that women try to change men, I'm
mhm,
seeing more and more men go like the opposite of what they want. And it makes them
total
feel
opposite.
triumphant
Mhm,
to reduce her. But what
yes,
they don't see in the long run is trouble. This is going to be trouble down the line because even if you get her to do everything that you felt that she should be doing, she's going to resent you for it.
mm,
And that resentment's going to show up somewhere.
okay,
Whether that is the rebellion that you see, sabotage, it's going to show up because it's in us as human beings. So go with what it is
go
that you
with what
want.
you already want, and you
And
know
the
that
second
when
thing,
you try to arbitrate and you go to the sheikh or the imam, that's the first
mhm,
thing they're gonna ask you, "Was she doing this before you married her?" Then, brother, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? This is what you married. So
but no, they want you to change. The second thing that I identified with the police thing was that, okay, maybe there was three things. So there was discomfort about how many men, because I was
mm,
working as the assistant to the chief of police. So I
mm,
worked directly with a man. I'm
right.
riding in the car with him. I'm in the car with a lot of the officers, with the command staff. So it was discomfort with how many men I work with. Okay, for some sensibilities, understood. But the third thing was the one, and that goes right back to the financial abuse. They didn't like not only that I was working with men, but men who are in authoritative positions.
Boom,
That was the
boom.
problem.
Boom. That is what I experienced working at an Islamic school where there were men that were in charge of the boards, in charge of, they were the sheikhs of the whole community, and I had to daily interact with these men who were just doing their job and I was doing my job. Nothing shady, but the fact that they had some more, in your case, it was more power. In this case, it's like an Islamic
Mhm.
authority.
Mhm.
And it made my ex-husband feel smaller and it made him feel
And
insecure, like, oh, he's a better catch or something. I don't know.
and it makes you less vulnerable as they see it.
Mm,
And that was true. And the thing about it is, I mean, I love law enforcement. I'm praying, y'all, law, that I get back in, probably at a different police department in a different manner. That's just my
mhm.
thing. I was a PO before that. That's what it's going to be. So, brother, no.
Yes,
If you don't want that, you don't like that, you can't be with me, and
you
just
don't want
accept that.
me. Exactly.
There's
Don't try to
somebody else
change
out
it.
there for you. A brother asked me recently, like, would I he had a brother in mind for me, and he said, well, he's kind of laid back, he's kind of quiet. So, and you're like a Facebook comedian, so do you think you would want to change some things? And I said, you know what? There are some things that I would change, because one of the things you brothers have to understand, I'm single. I'm living the best life as a single person. There are things
Right.
I would modify as a married woman. However, my personality, who I am, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not suffocating myself. I'm not um denying who I am in order for you to feel better. And why would you ask that of somebody? So
Why?
no, I'm
Yes.
not going to change for him. And the brother felt like I was being stubborn and rebellious, but he didn't understand what you're asking. Then we're not a match. If
Mm,
that's what's required for me to be in relationship with him, because I get a lot of these men that are attracted to me. I get men who are very outgoing, who have a presence in a community in whatever capacity, but they want the kind of wife that is doesn't match them in that. They want the quiet, tucked
yes.
away
Yes.
wife. And I'm not
Demure,
I'm not her.
quiet.
I'm not
Exactly.
her. I'm
Mhm.
actually trying to be more public. So
We're
I
going
don't
in 2 different
it,
directions. Yeah.
so I realize I'm in a space with a lot of those kind of guys. And I'm
Mm,
always looking at who their wives are, and it's always interesting to me. It's a common theme I'm starting to notice. The more outgoing and public he is in whatever capacity he's in,
mhm.
the more quiet, tucked away kind
Yes,
of
and
wife you have.
private she is.
And I'm
Absolutely.
not her. And I'm not
Yeah.
her. And one brother tried to say, I move kind of, he didn't say loose, but that was the implication. And I was on
Mm,
that within a heartbeat. Like, you ain't putting that back on me just because, and I don't want to insult your wife, so I'm not going to bring her into it. But just because I'm not that kind of woman doesn't mean I'm just out
absolutely.
here doing whatever. Ask the brothers who keep trying to talk to me and come to me left because that's how they read it. And ask them what became of them. Ask them
Exactly.
how far they got. So,
Exactly.
I,
Exactly.
I'm,
I'm out here wearing my lipstick.
mhm,
I'm not cheating on nobody. I'm chaste. I'm
I'm
honest.
Chase.
I
Hmm.
pray my salah
Hmm.
and you gonna come at me over some lashes?
Yeah, I did have
Are you cool?
several brothers ask me if they asked me if they were to marry me, would I stop wearing makeup? And I said, do I have it on now? There's plenty of sisters that don't wear
Don't
makeup.
wear it, don't want
Why?
it, don't buy it.
Go find one of
Mhm.
them.
Exactly,
There's
it's
plenty
so
of
simple.
sisters who don't do the kinds of things that I do. And that's
Mhm.
okay. You're not going to pit me against some sisters. That's
Exactly.
okay. But
That
I get to be who I
triangulation
am
stuff is
too.
not gonna work anymore. It's not.
Nah, sisters, a lot of us ain't going for that no more. And they know it. And that's why I feel like I said, some of these brothers have become more aggressive. But in all of this, because people say I man bash too much, in all of this, I know some very good brothers.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of them are married already. I mean, because of the kind of space that I'm in around so many men, I meet them because people are like, how do you know so many men? Because of the kind of work that I've done.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I'm a
I
happy widow. I'm like you, I'm glowing, I'm hydrated, I'm peaceful, and it would take a miracle to disturb that peace, and
it's
I
just going to
just
be a
feel like
certain type of brother. I'll know him
yes.
when I see him. That's what I keep saying. And we're not talking about somebody on a white horse riding in.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
talking
not
about
perfect.
practical stuff.
Yeah.
We just vibe. And I've gotten close. It's just the timing. In some instances, it didn't work out. One of the brothers was going through a divorce, and I just felt like I need you to go through that, whatever you need to go through after
Mm,
the divorce.
and
I don't
then
know if
come
you're
back
ready
around if
yet,
you can,
but
yes.
I
Mhm.
hold hope. I'm seeing men, like I said, even though he's a celebrity, it's just the best example. Like the rapper that I was mentioning, AJ McQueen. I want to
Mhm.
land me one of them kind of brothers that's willing to do the work. Because
Yeah,
for all the conversation you have about us, about what do you bring to the table, submission and all that, what are you doing as far as work on yourself? Not work
exactly.
your job, yourself.
Yourself.
Because I need to, if we should hit a rough patch and we need to go talk to somebody, I need you to be willing to do that. And I need you to be receptive to whatever they tell you is your part.
That part. That
I
part.
need to see that. So
Mhm.
I need a brother that's willing to work on himself and not project on me and talk about the women because
Mhm.
I'm willing to do the work.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
until then,
I'm at the part where I'm just so I mean, just to be 100% transparent, I don't really cook anymore. I do what I wanna do. I go I go to sleep when I wanna go to sleep. I leave the country when I it is gonna take a miracle for me to even do the work to find, that type of brother. So,
and
it
for
looks like
me,
I'm just going
I'm an older mom, so I had my children late.
Mm,
So I'm
mm.
still in mommy mode. So I am cooking and doing all those things. But I'm like 2026 kind of mom. So
Yeah,
I
so the
still
kids
now
are
my
getting
children
in
are
there and
older.
cooking too.
I'm making a life for myself as well. And so
Yes.
um it for me it's gonna take like we have worked to get this peace after my divorce and getting everybody acclimated and um people who know me from then to now are like, man, you're really rocking it out. And so for
Mhm.
me, my daughter asked me, which is hopeful, she asked me, well, what's the problem with us getting married here? Why haven't you
Your
gotten
daughter?
married yet? And I had to
Wow.
explain to her,
Mhm.
I said, but we've existed. See how we come home? It's peaceful.
Nobody's screaming.
No, right. And she has, because children talk, she has heard some situations in which there was fighting, physical fighting at home. And I
Mhm.
said, we don't want any of that, right? And she was like, no, we don't. And they know what I had a very messy divorce, which unfortunately they were privy to parts of it. I reminded them, like, we don't want that again right now.
Mhm.
And they don't know as children. Well, my daughter's older now. I can talk to her a little bit more. I can be a little more forward with her. I told her, like, even as a child, you don't want somebody coming in and changing your whole dynamic.
The whole
So part of
dynamic.
the part
Yes.
two for me in this is there's my piece and our piece, but then there's parenting. Are we on the same page about that
Mhm.
and what that should look
Mhm.
like? Because I remember one brother was trying to talk to me and he heard the dishes rattling in the background and he was like, oh, are you washing dishes? And I said, no, my son is. Why do you have your son washing dishes?
Oh gosh.
I said, oh no, we ain't gonna work. We ain't gonna work.
That
If
ain't
you
gonna be a
think,
match.
and you're not doing that to my daughter, you're not doing that where she alone has to do this. And I
Mhm.
understand he felt there were more manly responsibilities, but I'm of the view that I need my son to be both of my sons to be well rounded. They need to know how to do
Yes.
things for themselves
Yes.
because I don't want my sons in a situation where a woman can abuse them or take advantage of them because you don't know how to do for yourself. I'm and it's not a
Absolutely.
feminist thing. Brothers read it as feminist. Why can't we come as partners? Why can't we come to
Right.
this as cooperative partners doing whatever we decide, not what the internet and anybody else thinks a relationship should look like in terms
Mhm.
of division of labor?
Yes,
We
as
decide
we
that.
decide as a
But I want
family.
my sons to come to the table knowing how to do things for themselves. Not
Yeah.
that you have to rely on a woman to cook for you. My oldest son, he likes to cook.
Mm,
And my daughter's the
and
one
to
that
the
don't like
people
to cook.
and to the people who are always screaming, Islam gave women those rights. You don't need feminism. Islam gave us those rights 1400 years ago. To that, I say that is true. However, to enforce those rights, to enforce the child support laws, to enforce the mahar, the bride price, to enforce, the division of property, we do need those laws that protect us. So, yes, Islam, is gave women those rights 1400 years ago, but how are they being enforced in the Muslim
That's
community?
that's the thing. They're not being enforced, and people say they're not enforceable, but they could be.
They could be if you had a
They could
contract.
be if that's
Yeah.
what our commitment was too, and that there were
Mhm,
consequences for violating it. Because
mm,
there should be no reason that on either side, women or men, that
right.
people who are predators, who have who have taken advantage of people, who have hustled them and scammed them, should be able to just go get married again.
Exactly.
There should be
Over
a
and
sanction
over and
against
over.
them. There should be
Exactly.
sanctions against people who bear false witness. All of these things, you don't need the American government to do that. We
Mm,
can culturally do that. How I know that is from watching other cultures. They
exactly.
have sanctions, informal sanctions. You do certain things, you're not one of us anymore. You're out.
You're out. You're done. You're excommunicated. For- you
Yes.
know? So
So
it can be done.
it
It
can
can
be
be
done. I
done
mean, the nation has
Islamically
that.
and legally.
The
Yes.
nation has that. That's where
Mhm.
I do. I feel like you know that is it is
That they
something
have the upper hand
you
there.
can be put on pause for a certain amount of time. You can be indefinitely kicked out, but
Mm,
there has to be a consequence for that.
there
And
has
that's the
to be.
problem is and you got to feel that consequence. I'm not saying it's perfect in
Absolutely.
that regard, but there's a way sometimes I think in this society people aren't made to feel that consequence because
Absolutely. There's
if you're
so
that
many
kind of
Muslim men
person.
that are knocking women's heads between the washer and the dryer, and they're able to marry in another city, marry in another state. And if we are not, as Muslims, able to have a consequence, then we've got to report these people so that, the white man can do it. Because
Right, and I hate
I'm
it, and
sorry.
I took a lot of heat because I was very against that when I was married.
Mhm.
But what I didn't understand at the time was what you're talking about now. That okay, you're against it, but what now?
But and now what? And now where is my justice? Where
Right,
is my justice for what happened to me? What happened to my children? It's all
and
sabr,
sad.
sister, patience, sabr.
No,
No.
and sadly, there is no justice. So here we are. So what do you want sisters to do? But what
Mhm.
I start to feel like is people just want to keep brothers, sisters. There's women because I've heard some stories now, women, of women doing things, and
Oh,
they can
yeah.
get married,
Oh,
put
yeah.
that hijab on, put a niqab on, and go in another community, and brothers think they got a righteous sister, and you got a scammer up
Mhm.
underneath there. So I mean that
A
happens,
whole
but this
scammer,
it's
yes.
a whole scammer, and you shouldn't
Mhm,
be able to hop from community to community. And I know it can
mhm.
be done because, like I said, in people's cultural communities, it was that way. For me,
It
being
was that
married
way.
to a man of another culture and seeing their network,
Too.
I was like,
Same,
wow,
same. In my husband's
wow.
community, there was a man trying to get married, new to the Dallas area. In a matter of 4 days after he was inquiring after, for marriage to with some of the brothers, my husband knew exactly what country he got married in. He found out that he had gotten a divorce, and, the whole community knew what was going on with that brother. And they were like, "What makes you think you need a second chance?" I mean, talk about tough.
Hmm.
It is tough in other you mess up one time, you're done. Forget
Well,
about it.
I'm gonna say something real controversial here. Some of these women that our brothers, African American brothers, are going to marry that they think they found the golden queen of a community are those who've been put out.
Exactly.
And
Those
behind your
are
back, people are
I
laughing at
know,
you.
because those are the sisters that nobody in that community would ever marry. Those are the sisters that have done so much dirt that their men do not want them. So, yeah, they just be giggling under their breath.
I've personally witnessed it where I was in a community. I wasn't even married to anybody. I just was very connected in the community. They let me in.
Mhm,
And there was a woman that had been doing a lot of things, and
mm,
everybody knew that to be her reputation. And I lost touch with them, and I saw her later, probably like a year later, at a restaurant with an African American guy, and he's cheesing and smiling, like, look at me, and looking at me like,
I won.
look what I got. And I just was inside like, yikes.
Yikes, you don't
Because I
even
had been
know.
told, I didn't understand it at the time, but somebody from her culture community had told me, none of these men are going to marry her. I hope you
Mhm,
understand that. I was like, oh, come on. Yeah, because I'm thinking it with my American mindset. And he was like, no, seriously. When she
mhm.
marries somebody, she's going to marry somebody from outside. And that's exactly what happened. She was married and he
Mhm.
thought he had the prize. And look, I'm all for redemption. Maybe she
I
redeemed
am
herself,
too.
but I'm
I am
saying that
too.
we can't be redemptive beyond consequence. So, I saw it even with my ex-husband, not even in a bad way. I had went to it was years ago. I had went to a ISNA conference in Chicago
Mhm,
with
mhm,
and I was meeting my friend there. So he didn't go. But when I was going, one of the people from his culture community is a taxi driver. So he was like, no, he's gonna pick you up from the airport. And I
mm,
was like, okay,
mhm,
all right.
mhm.
And apparently, because I wasn't from his culture, he decided he was going to charge me. So when I got back home, I told him that I had to pay him. And he was like, wait, what? He
Ooh,
wasn't supposed to charge you because he's like, you're supposed to treat you like one of us. The
mhm,
word went all around his community. I kid you not.
mm, mm,
People
mm.
were contacting me from all over the United States trying to give me the money that I paid.
Wow,
And I
wow.
said, wow, this is what a network is like.
This
we
is
we
what a
don't have
network
that,
is
but
like.
we can have it if
Mhm.
everybody's buy-in is there. I mean, I've heard
Exactly.
of here and there some individual communities where
Yes,
that
but as
is.
a whole, no. as a
Mm-mm.
whole, no. It's very individualistic. Nobody, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And it's, this is my life. And, don't worry about what happened in this marriage. And yes, this is my 13th marriage, but it's my life and it's my right.
Or you just reserve the right to go out and marry a non-Muslim lady and try to get her to, accept Islam. And
Which
that's what you
again
do.
is just not fair for either party because, if it's not in your heart, you just it tends not to work out. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
But thank you so much, Shahida. This has been
You're very
such a
welcome.
great conversation.
It has.
Is there anywhere that people can hear more of your wisdom? Do you have anything that you would like to promote or talk about before I let you go?
Well, I'm Shahidah Siraaj on Facebook. That's what I have for right now. But in the works, inshallah, my play brother and I are going to do a podcast. It
Oh,
just came to me because people have been telling me I need to do a podcast.
you do.
And I
You
was like,
do.
aren't we podcast out at this point? Everybody and their mama got a
Not
podcast.
that
So
kind
people
of
are like,
podcast. Yeah.
but then I said, okay, people keep telling me there's things they want to hear from me. But
Mhm.
then him and I have such good conversations about Muslim issues, man and woman issues. And I said, you know what's missing here is a black Muslim, his and her conversation, but in a healthy manner.
In a
We're not talking
healthy
about these
way.
podcasts where they're going at each other. Like me and him have
Screaming
some
and
very
hollering.
evolved conversations. So I asked him and I said, check with your wife and would you be willing to do, and we're not even in the same city, would you
Mm.
be willing to do like a podcast with me? And he said, absolutely. So that's what we're trying to put together now. And I promise you guys, you're going to love this
I
conversation
I
because
am
he's a
going to
man
be
who,
your day one fan.
he's a young man who has done work on himself.
I love that.
And so, because he's done work, he's able to address some of these. He comes to these conversations with such wisdom and insight and humility. I mean, he's very upfront about his failures and things he had to learn. And so I told him, I think people would like these conversations. People would like to hear it. So I want to keep it informal as well, but we're going to have a podcast where just him and I talk about various issues. And he's like me, he's willing to push the envelope. So it's going to be some controversial things in
I love
this
it.
conversation, but I think it will be enlightening and it will be beneficial for people because I want, especially for women, to hear from a man who has done some work on himself, who's married, who has children, who is realizing some things.
Yes,
And
that
I
would be
want them to
so
hear our dialogue about issues. And so
yes.
him and I have already, we've been talking and I'm like, we need this for the podcast. We need this. Let's stop talking about it right now because we need to save this for the
Listen,
podcast.
don't worry about equipment and lighting, it's gonna
That's
all
me.
come
That's
later.
me. That's
Just
me. He
do
was
it.
like, let's just do it now. And I was like, I need to get my stuff set up and I need a pretty background. And I'm getting all into it. I need this lighting. And he was like, look, I got a mic. You need to get a
Mhm,
mic.
and
We
let's
find
go.
a platform and we can just start off from there. So inshallah soon. And I need to put the pressure on myself to get going and me and him figure out like what we want to start with, and I don't even know what we want to call it yet, but I think his and hers. But now they got this Netflix show. So
Ah,
that was
yes.
my view before the show
Oh,
came on
they took
was
it.
his and hers.
They took it.
They took it, but I'm not sure yet. But that's what's coming for me. Otherwise, for now, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I don't really use it as much
Mhm,
as
mhm. So
I use
Facebook is your
Facebook.
main home. Okay.
Yeah, for now. I mean, like I said, we want to do the podcast. I'm sure we'll put it on YouTube as well, just for accessibility.
Yay! I
Yes.
would love that. Well,
Yeah.
Shahida Siraj, thank you so much. Jazakallahu
Thank you for
khairan.
having me.
Everyone, please
Wayakum.
follow her on Facebook and
Follow
also
me.
like, comment, and subscribe here. And have a wonderful day. Bye.
You as well. Bye.